Oh, hello. Welcome to the clinic. I was just, redecorating the lobby / examination room. But I think it looks just wonderful now. How can I help you? Is it an emergency case? No. Oh, that is always such a relief to hear. John and I, we take care of animals in any condition. We will take just about anything and everything. But when that condition is not dire, it certainly makes life a lot less stressful. Anywho, welcome to the Dolittle Veterinary Clinic. How can I help you today? Here on business for the Queen. Well, I am honoured. I know that Dolittle, my husband, has done some work for the Queen in the past, but I have never had the privilege of doing business with one of her representatives, such as myself. So it is truly a pleasure. What can I do for you today? You have a pet bird. All right, let's take a look. I see here you have the little carrier. And what is the concern with this pet bird? Has she stopped eating? Is she scratching at herself? What is the trouble? All of the above, I see. Well, I suppose if she is not eating and scratching at herself, we might have more than one thing going on. Let me set her down for a moment while I grab my gloves for a proper examination. All right. All right. I will gently open the cage, or carrier, whatever you like to call it, so as not to disturb her. And then carefully, come here, lovely, come here, little darling, pull her out. Set that down. Ah, here you are, lovely. She is quite a lovely budgie. A green and yellow one. Very charming. A very delightful little bird, if you ask me. But then again, John and I are both partial to birds, but that is for a good reason. But I suppose if you have the time, I will explain that later. Alright, so let's take a look at the Queen's little budgie. First, let's make sure that her heart is beating properly. Alright, everything sounds normal. That is always a relief. Next, I'm just going to give her a thorough examination. Just making sure there aren't any odd little lumps or bumps or anything that would be a reason for concern. And of course, before I forget, in case nobody has told you, I do know how to speak to animals, so don't be alarmed if I begin to talk to the Queen's little budgie in a manner that might seem a bit unusual for a person talking to an animal. Alright? Alright. Some people find it quite shocking and a little bit disturbing, so I just wanted to give you a nice warning beforehand, so that way you had no reason for alarm. Alright? Alright. Well, you are most certainly a very pretty little bird. I'm not finding any lumps or bumps on her, so that's good. So I'm just going to talk to the patient a little bit now and see if she can give us a little bit of inside information. Alright. So what seems to be the trouble? Your loving owner, the Queen, seems to be concerned about your health and has sent this lovely person to bring you here so we can get to the bottom of whatever is bothering you. What does the trouble seem to be? Alright. Alright. Yes, I know, that would be dreadfully annoying as well. I see. I see. Alright, so it sounds like our little budgie has a terrible itch right up here on her face. And that itch is causing her so much discomfort that she does not want to eat. And I think I can understand that. I think I can understand that, don't you? Anywho, I think we might be able to get to the bottom of this. First, I'm going to look at you a little bit more closely. Is that alright? Alright. I just want to look through your feathers just to make sure. Oh yes, I don't see anything unusual or that would be something we could fix. Alrighty. It looks like I have found the source of the issue. It is nothing to be alarmed about. We see it quite frequently in birds and, of course, other types of animals as well. It seems here that you have just a few little mites living over here in your feathers. Now, we can get rid of those, and I will show you how. Just a moment, please. So I assume that you are the bird's caretaker. Am I correct in that assumption? You are not. Alright, so if you would just relay everything that I'm about to tell you to the bird's primary caretaker, I would greatly appreciate it. Alright? Alright. So what we are going to do for these mites is we are going to take a little brush like this brush right here, and we're just going to brush and brush and brush on the bird's feathers. Alright? Alright. Let me set aside the little cap. There we go. And we're just going to get a little bit of the powder, and we are going to brush it onto the affected area of the bird. Alright? Alright. So we're just going to brush and brush and brush and brush. Get a little bit more. And brush, 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 and brush. Alright, do you think you can relay this information to the caretaker of the bird? Alright, wonderful. I knew you could do it. Alright, so I'm going to give this little brush to you, along with the powder that you need for helping get rid of those mites. Now you, for your part, little bird, in exchange for having all this pampering done to you to help you get rid of that nasty little itch, you need to do something for me. You need to try your very, very best to stop scratching at that itch. Yes, I know it is very, very annoying and it's so hard not to itch it, but you've just got to stop, because if you don't, I will have to put a cone on you so you can't scratch it, and neither of us wants that. We all know how embarrassing it is to wear a cone, not because there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not a fun thing to have to deal with, and neither of us want that. I know it will be hard and I know it will be impossible to completely stop scratching that itch, but you've got to do your best, and if you do your best, that will make me happy. Alright? Do we have a deal? Alright. I think that we are just fine and ready to go. I will put this beautiful little bird back in her carrier, and I will send you on your way to the Queen. Don't forget the brush for taking care of the bird. So here you can take back safe and sound, and hopefully mite free, or at least getting close to mite free, the Queen's beautiful little budgie. And I do hope that you will give Her Majesty my sincerest thanks for allowing me to take care of her beloved pet. Alright? Alright. There you go. So, I do thank you for coming, and I hope you have a safe journey back. Do you have any other errands you're needing to run? Anywhere that I can give you directions to? Of course, I assume that the Queen would have provided you all you needed in that sort of regard. Really? You have some leisure time? I see. Oh, well, thank you. I suppose a quick examination is perhaps one of the skills that I've acquired. Being able to do it thoroughly and quickly is, I suppose, just something that comes with time. And with Dolittle and John, John as I call him, most people know him as Dolittle, but of course he's John to me. John has shown me many things, and the more times he shows me and the more times I can practice, the better I become at it. But yes, actually I was not trained in school the way John was, but that is a story for another day. I did have schooling though, just not the same type as John. Let me put aside my little glove here. So, if you don't have anywhere you need to be, it is quite a hot day outside. Would you care to remain in here for a while? I don't believe I have any appointments for the next little while, so you are more than welcome to stay in here and out of the blazing sun. Alright, so I was actually just going through some of my treasures. Would you be interested in perhaps me telling you some of the stories behind them? Alright, I'd be so happy to do so. I would, of course, stop John at some point in the day, but he was with me for most of these, and if he wasn't, I've already told him about them, so, I wouldn't want to bore him, but if you find it interesting, I would quite enjoy that. Alright. So, where shall we start? This is just a piece of cloth that I had lying around that I thought looked quite nice on the stone wall, but that doesn't really have a story, does it? This is a piece of netting from our ship, and, John's ship. Well, I'll tell you more about that later. For now, I guess we'll just start with the odds and ends that I have here. This is a wooden parrot that John and I brought back from our explorations in South America. South America reminded me a lot of my home, in fact. I grew up in Monteverde, which, as you know, has a very humid, jungle-like environment. And of course, that's where I met Polly, who, the reason we got this is because it reminded us of Polly, and Polly didn't find it nearly so amusing. She thought we were trying to replace her. I suppose I should tell you who Polly is. Polly is our parrot. Well, she doesn't really belong to us. We don't own any of the animals. We just take care of them. But Polly was the parrot that kind of helped John and I learn, or more or less just see, that we could talk to animals. And so she's very important to us. Every now and then we will come across an animal that we're having trouble conversing with, and she a lot of times can help, but she doesn't speak every animal language, so sometimes we just have to work together to learn. But I thought it was a charming little way to honour our little companion, have a little parrot to remind us of her, even whenever she's in the next room over, squawking loudly about something. Honestly, there's a part of me that thinks that she was the one who kept John out of trouble before I came along, because, like me, she's kind of a voice of reason. John can get his head in the clouds sometimes, or bent over his work, or just absorbed in the animals around him, that sometimes he needs someone to keep him grounded in reality. And I may be a daring and adventurous explorer, but I think I'm the more realistic and logistically minded of the two of us. But yes, a darling little statue of a parrot that we got in South America. Let's put her back on her perch over here. Let's see what else we have. This is a peacock feather that shed off of one of my father's peacocks in Monteverde. I've had this ever since I was a little girl. I've had several of these things ever since I was a little girl. I've always had a thing for animals and adventure, and as a little girl, honestly, I dreamed that I would be here. I don't think I could have dreamed that I would be here someday. It's just beyond my wildest imagination. But this came off of one of my father's peacocks. I would never have plucked it off the living creature. Oh, that's just a terrible thought. I would never have done that, but it shed this feather, and so I found it sitting out on the palace lawn. I suppose I should explain that also, but I found this sitting out in the front yard, and I thought it was just the most beautiful thing. Look at how the colours change in the light. Isn't that just a marvel of creation? I like to kind of keep it in the netting. I think it looks kind of pretty. So where shall we go next? I guess we also have this little bird here. It's made of glass. John has one that matches. We bought this in a little village close to where we got the parrot, I think. I don't remember. It's hard to keep track of all our different adventures because we've been on so many. But this is a little bird. Little glass bird. This one we found in a cave And in this cave there were all these rocks, and the locals told us that they were geodes. And so Dolittle and I, well, it was really more my suggestion, but we found one of these rocks. We asked the locals if we could keep it, and they said yes. And we took it home and cracked it open, and it's got all these little jewels, all these little sparkly crystals on the inside. I have heard that there are some geodes that have precious stones in them, like amethyst, or I don't know, I suppose it's possible with emeralds or rubies or something like that. But ours is just some pretty little white crystals. I'm going to go put that on its shelf now. I never know what to pick up. There's so many little things. I suppose I have to move this to get to everything else. So this, as well as the necklace that I was putting up, are things that my father gave me when I was a little girl. I believe this one was for my birthday. Yes, he liked to spoil me. I was an only child, and therefore I was his favourite, but only because I was an only child. And I suppose that I told you that I would explain who my father was, so I guess I will now. Alright, so I grew up, in fact, as the Princess of Monteverdi, but I don't like to talk about it a bunch because I feel like it's proud, and I'm quite happy not just being known by my royal title here in my new world with John. But you see, I did grow up the daughter of King Rasuli from Monteverdi, and if you're not familiar with Monteverdi, that's totally alright. It's a long way away from here, and there are a lot of people who aren't familiar with it. But my father was the most powerful king in the area, and he had a temper. He wasn't the most pleasurable man, but he was still my father, and even if I got on his nerves sometimes with all of my tree climbing and animal taming, sometimes I would bring in snakes and hedgehogs and all these other different things from the palace garden and such, and my father, he liked animals, but he was more into lions and big cats and things like that. Bears. It's some weird things, and honestly I don't think some of them were for pets. I think some of them might have been, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like my father had a whole zoo. But anyway, he had his pet lions, and so he liked those. I don't know what the bears and the tigers were for. But anyway, he had his pet lions, and I had my different things that I bring in. So I suppose we had that in common, but I lived in the palace for many years, and my father actually was fascinated with explorers, and he invited them sometimes to come to his banquets, and he would throw these lavish banquets, and for as much as I loved exploring, I did enjoy a good lavish banquet, and at one point, one of those explorers was John, and I liked him the moment I saw him. There was something just adorably clumsy about him, and being so used to all of the stiff servants and routines of the palace, there was something in his smile, something in the way that he was so awkward. And I felt bad for him at first because he was trying so hard to be proper and act like he should in the presence of my father. But what's funny is my father thought him most unproper, that's the word. My father thought him most unproper at first. But I was smitten. I loved him. I liked him, and then I got to know him. I got to talk to him about some of his adventures, and I fell in love with him. And he came back several times. Later he told me he was in love with me and he wanted to come and see me. But I loved him. I loved what he did, I loved what he stood for, and I loved him as a person. And so, naturally, I wanted to marry him. But my father was not fond of that at first. He just didn't see Dolittle as the kind of person he'd always pictured me with. I mean, I was the Princess of Monteverde, and fair enough, my father was very fond of explorers. But Dolittle, John Dolittle, he took some warming up to. But I loved John with all my heart, and I still do. And my father wanted me to see my heart's desire, so eventually he granted John's request for my hand in marriage, and we got married. We did go on a few adventures with John and his men. My father did allow me to go with him on an adventure before we were married. But after that, we went all over the world. We went to Asia. We went to the Arctic Circle or the North Pole. We went to the Americas. We went to South America. And of course we went to Africa. And all different places in Europe. Now John is from more this area. I don't think he grew up in England, but sometimes there are so many little countries in Europe that I get confused. So I always have to ask him. But anyway, we live somewhere up here in Europe. In England. And we've been all around the world. So, like I said, we went to the Arctic Circle. And that is where we rescued Yoshi. He is a polar bear and he has trouble keeping warm, so Dolittle gave him his hat. Thought that was a nice gesture. And he was having such trouble keeping warm that we ended up bringing him back with us because there was no way he could ever stay warm up in the Arctic, so we decided it'd be best to take him to an environment where he could be warmer. So we have Yoshi living with us. We also have Elliot and Elsie, the monkeys. I cannot remember. Are they Capuchin monkeys or square monkeys? I can't remember. We've had some of both, and now I forget if we still have the square monkeys, if Elliot and Elsie are the square monkeys, or if we brought the square monkeys back to South America and Elliot and Elsie are the Capuchin monkeys. I don't remember. We have too many animals to keep track of. So we got Elliot and Elsie, whichever breed of monkey they were, I believe, down here in South America. And like I said, it reminded me of my childhood home, South America did. And let's see who else we got. We also have Chi-Chi, who is a gorilla that we rescued. I can't remember where we got him from. I can't remember now. But we have him. We have the sugar glider from Australia. She likes to hide in Dolittle's hat. Dolittle's hat, Dolittle's hat, Dolittle's hat. She likes to perch up high on the train track the Dolittle has running through our house, and fly down and land on his head. I think it is most charming thing. But anyway, we have her. We have Styx, who is the walking stick insect. We have so many animals, and they don't belong to us, of course. If they ever wanted to go back to their homeland, they'd be more than welcome. And if we ever were to go back to their homeland, they would be more than welcome to come with us and return. But most of the ones that we have with us at this point are ones that, after talking with the animals and discussing between John and I, we just decided between the three of us that it would be prudent for them to stay with us, where they can receive the best care, the best environment, and the best conditions. So that was just a brief tour of some of the places we've been. But of course, there is nothing like being home here on the magnificent land that the Queen has given us so kindly, to where we can take care of animals here in our animal sanctuary. So that's the globe. This is a little dolphin. I don't remember where I got this one. It's a little dolphin. I thought it looked quite cute sitting next to this ship. This is a model of Dolittle's ship. I always can't help but laugh whenever I talk about the ship, because Dolittle, well, John, he named it after me. I told him he didn't need to, that it was unnecessary, but he insisted, so how could a girl refuse? He named it the water lily. And I thought it was just the sweetest thing. Not many a man names a ship after his love. But I thought it was such a charming thing for my husband to do. We have had so many adventures on board this ship, and hopefully we will have many more. I have, in fact, a voyage that I'm planning myself to go on, in search of a special tree that has a very special fruit that I think could make fantastic medicines from the things that I've heard. And while, of course, nothing is truly a cure for everything, to put it lightly, to put it simply, I think that it might have some incredible scientific properties that could prove very useful in the study and in the practice of medicine, both for us veterinarians and also for medicine for people. And I just think that is such a noble cause that I've decided I'm going to go on a voyage to try and find this special fruit with these special new scientific qualities. More on that in a moment, though, I suppose, if you have time and would wish to hear about it. But then we have this, and it's small and it's simple, but it's one of my favorite ones, and it is a little shell. And this little shell is very, very, very special to me, and I'll tell you why. Dolittle gave me this shell the first night my father allowed us to walk together on the beach without more than 3 chaperones. We still had one, which I was fine with. I was a royal growing up. I was perfectly used to having servants, but it was the first time we'd really been able to have a private conversation. And at this point, I liked Dolittle. I thought he was adorable. I liked John so much, but I just wasn't sure. It would take a lot for me to convince my father, and I didn't want to go to that trouble if I wasn't really, really sure. So we talked, John and I, about many things. Our hopes and dreams, his education. I forgot to tell you about his education and my education, so I guess there's not really much to it. He was educated, I can't remember which of the big schools. He went to university. I had private tutoring, but he went to university specifically to get a science degree, so that he could better do what he wanted to do. I did not go to university. We did not have a university in Monteverde in that sort. I had private tutors, and I, of course, always voted that if I had to pick an extra subject, that it be a science subject. I studied botany, I studied biology, marine biology, archaeology, paleontology. I studied anything and everything that had to do with science, animals, the world around us. I had some wonderful teachers. But anyway, back to the story of this little shell. So John and I were walking on the beach talking about our hopes and dreams and goals in life, and I was starting to really think he was the one. We shared a lot of similar passions and ideas and ideals, visions. And I said, there are so many hurting animals in the world, and at times I feel like it's almost pointless to try and help them because there are so many. And Dolittle picked up this little shell. John picked up this little shell. And he said, there are many, many shells in the sea. But this one, it is still beautiful, and it is still worth admiring, even though there are many, many more shells in the sea. And I said, what's that got to do with anything? And John said, there are many, many hurting animals in the world. But that doesn't mean that just one that you might be able to help in a day isn't still a beautiful creation and something that we can help. And just because that might be the only creature you can help doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. There might be an animal that's hurting more out there somewhere. Just like this shell, that one little difference that you can make is still worth making. And so that is really when I knew that this was my calling. This was what I was meant to do. And I was meant to do it with John Dolittle. I love him, I really do. Thank you for visiting. I suppose I will allow you to go back to the Queen. This is my journal. I just figured while I wait for the next appointment, I would work on planning out my course to this special tree. I have all sorts of notes and maps and all sorts of things in here. It would probably be quite valuable if anybody else saw the value in my ideas. A lot of people think I'm silly, but you know what? There will always be people that think an unusual idea is silly. And if it's not something that ends up being something that revolutionizes medicine, at least I made a discovery. At least I had an adventure. At least I found one more seashell. Thank you for coming and allowing me to tell you about my different adventures. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and should the Queen's budgie or any of her beloved animals ever require more care, you are more than welcome to bring them back to the Dolittle Veterinary Clinic. Do take care, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Yes, dear. Oh, alright, I'll be right there. Just give me a moment. It appears that John needs my help in the surgery. Do excuse me. Have a wonderful day. Yes, dear. Just give me a moment. I'm gathering my things. Do you know where I put my gloves? Polly found them? Oh, of course she did. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to see more fun, adventurous ASMR